Hey everybody, Karen here. Welcome back to Unpinned Creative. I have finally finished the dephemerember journal cover, and in this video and the next one, and maybe even a third, I'm going to show you exactly how I created it. So we have a 3D tree on one side, some leaf litter and stuff like that down the bottom, some buildings, a bird's nest, and the shadow of a butterfly. Totally not exactly what I had planned when I started, as you will see, but I love it. I love it so much. I'm incredibly happy. And also, I'm going to show you how to put book rings onto a spine. So not a ring binder mechanism, which you can buy and is probably easier, but actual singular book rings attached to the spine. I will see if I can show you what the outside of the spine looks like. It's a massive journal, this one, so if you can see, let me zoom in. Ooh. There are 3 little crosses on the spine, and those are what are holding those book rings in place. So join me and I will show you exactly how I created this, if you'd like to know. Here we go. Creative. Today I am going to be making the cover for my dephemerember journal. So what I want to do is create a cover with a spine, but that I can still use book rings in, because I want to be able to take out each of the pages still to work on them, because this is going to be an ongoing project. There are lots of pages that I didn't complete fully and want to add to and stuff like that. So to do that, I'm going to need some scrap cardboard. So this is just from a packaging box, and the first thing I will cut is the spine. So to get the size of the spine, I'm going to measure the diameter of the book ring, which in this case is just over 2 inches, or 55 millimeters. So I know that I want my spine to be at least that wide. I'm going to make it 75 millimeters, or 3 inches, so that I know I definitely have room to grow with this journal, because I will be adding to the pages, so they are going to get add a bit more bulk to the journal. So I'm just going to cut my piece of card at 3 inches wide. When I'm making spines out of cardboard, I like to have the corrugations running horizontally. It just makes it harder for the spine to bend inwards. If they go up and down, and that's not to say I never have them going up and down, it really depends on what scrap cardboard I have, but if your corrugations are running vertically, then your card can bend like that, and we don't want that. I don't want that, especially for a journal this big. So so that's my spine. Now I need to determine what height I want it to be. So for that, I am going to just measure my page. So they are around 250 millimeters, or just under 10 inches. I want it slightly bigger than that, so I'm going to cut at 10.5 inches, which is just over 265 millimeters. Alright, so that is the base of the spine. Quick and easy peasy. Onto the covers now. I already know that I need the cover height to be 10.5 inches based on the height of my spine. So that is the height of my cover, and now I just want to work out the length of my cover. So I'll bring my journal back in. For this one, I need to make sure that the rings are going to be completely within this cover. So that piece is about perfect. So just to show you with the ruler, I need to be measuring from the end of this book ring to the end of my journal pages, and then a little bit extra. And so in this case, that works out to be just over 360 millimeters, which I'm guessing is about 13 or 14 inches. My ruler doesn't go that far in inches. So that's easy peasy, and then I'll just cut a second piece for the back cover to match. So I'm not worried about this because this is all going to be covered up in the decoration of the cover. Now this back piece is slightly wider than this top piece, and I'm just going to leave it like that for the moment because I may incorporate that into my final cover design. Okay, so that is the front cover, back cover and the spine cut to size. The next thing to do is start decorating. So lots of people ask me how I come up with my ideas when I'm creating something new, and sometimes it's easy. I already have an idea pop into my head and then I start creating, and other times I don't have any idea at all. So what I do is I start with the basics that are the same for every journal cover I make, such as cutting the pieces to size, and that starts the creative process flowing. My brain gets into, okay, we're creating mode, and what next, what next, what next, and the answers just usually come to me. The other thing that I do is I take a walk around my craft room or my house and look, not necessarily looking for anything, but kind of scanning over my craft supplies and things like that, and something tends to stand out to me. So in this instance, I was walking around this morning and I saw this piece of tulle. It's a very stiff netting, just lying on a shelf, and so I grabbed it, and I'm going to incorporate that into my cover, and so that is where the ideas start to form. So then my brain starts thinking, what can I do with this? What does it remind me of? How can I use it? That sort of thing. So it gets the ideas starting to flow in my brain, and then the cover will start to take shape from there. The other thing I do is formulate a list in my head of things I want to feature on the cover. So for this journal in particular, because it's an animal themed journal, I know that I definitely want animals in here somehow. And also because it's quite a grungy journal, a lot of the pages are grungy, I know that I want the journal to incorporate grunge. So when I put all those things together, the stiff netting that I found, the grunge and animals, then I can go and start to collect materials that I think will fit those ideas, and that just adds more energy to the flow of ideas that are coming, and I will see an idea start to form, if that makes sense. So I'll just go and collect a few things in relation to grunge and animals, and see where we go from there. Alright, so I hadn't even left the room to go looking, and I started just flicking through the pages of the journal and looking at each one and the theme of each one and the style of each one. And the idea came to me that this is like an animal. The animals are so varied and different and come from all different places in the world. We have penguins and giraffes, and for example, and you know, toucans and rabbits and hamsters. And the idea that popped into my head then was, this is an animal utopia, and so going with that theme, the cover is going to become a kind of urban animal utopia. And so what I am going to do now is add some structures to the base layer, as in houses, I think. So an easy way to cover up this then is I will put one of those structures over the top of it. So I'm just going to take my scrap pieces of card, not that one because that's my spine. I'm going to put that to the side. I'm going to write spine on it so I don't get it mixed up, which has been known to happen before. Right, my scrap pieces of card. And let's go about getting the base layer of this design done. So all I'm going to do now is cut out shapes, building shapes from the scrap pieces of card, and lay them out on the cover and see where that takes me. While I was cutting this and laying this out, I realized that an urban city does not sound like animal utopia to me. So what the idea now that has come to me is that on this side of the cover will be a large tree. So it's going to be a large tree and then the urban cityscape here. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is glue these down with wood glue, and then we'll start work on the structure of the tree, and then we can go from there. Okay, so that is the start of our urban cityscape, and now I'm going to work on creating a tree over this side. So I'm going to grab some tin foil to start with. And then the other thing I will need is masking tape. Starting with a length of tin foil, and I'm just going to lightly scrunch that up. And this will form the trunk of my tree. Now, because I'm joining this to the spine, I don't want the tree trunk right up against this edge, because I will be taping the spine down that edge, and I'll need it to be flat. I'm just wondering, I think I need to do that first actually. Yep, so I'm going to attach my spine first because I do want that tree to come right to the edge. So just the same as attaching any spine to a custom made cover, you just line up the cover and the spine and leave a small gap, and then grab some tape. I use cloth tape or masking tape, whatever sort of tape that you have. So I use cloth tape because it's very, very sticky and very strong. I stick it to my cutting mat at the top, get a length that's long enough to cover that spine and cover, and then pop it down. Just like so. Then I flip it over. I like to push it down into the gap And there we go, that is the spine attached to the front cover. I'm going to attach the back cover as well, because once this has all the 3D elements on it, it's going to be harder to get the back cover and the spine lined up. So I will do that now as well. So I'm now just going to pop the tin foil on there and kind of get the shape of and the size of the tree. Alrighty, once I have my tin foil in the approximate shape that I want the tree to be, I just need to use a hot glue gun and stick that down to the cardboard. Okay, so that's just to hold it in place. And then the next thing I'm going to do is cover it all with masking tape. And that's so the next part, which is covering it up, that's so that the glue will stick over the tin foil. So it doesn't matter what width of masking tape you use. If you use a wider one, it'll obviously go much faster covering it. And it doesn't have to be tidy because this is all going to be covered up. Okay, so it looks a bit weird at the moment, but it is going to turn into a very cool tree, I think, anyway. This is one of my favorite ways to decorate a cover, so it is time consuming and it's very messy, but I love it. I love the result that it gives. Hey everybody, Future Karen here. Somehow I managed to not film or delete the video of the most important part of this process, which is the tree bark. So I've just quickly whipped up another cover with a tree on it. So I've done the tinfoil stage and the masking tape stage, and we're now about to put the bark on the tree. So what you need is paper towel. I like to use a plain white, just the cheapest paper towel, and then I tear them in half. So this is the paper towel. That's the longest side, so I turn it sideways and tear it in half across the shortest width of the paper towel, if that makes sense. So that's what I do, and I get a pile of those ready. It's okay if they're textured, but just be aware that that texture may come out in the finished result. And then what we need is watered down PVA. Now, I don't measure at all. If you're doing something like this, about this size, what I would do is start with half a cup or thereabouts of PVA, and then start adding water to it. Add maybe 1/8 of a cup to start with, up to 1/4 of a cup. What you want is a really runny consistency, not quite water consistency, more like sauce consistency. So I don't know if you can see that, but so quite runny. I am just going to do it in this jar, but it is much easier if you pop it into a bowl. The other thing is this is a really messy process, so take all your rings off and be prepared to get messy. It's nighttime here, but I really needed to get this video out, so I apologize for the shadows. Then what you want to do is submerge your a piece of your paper towel, just one at a time, in the PVA. Pull it out and wipe off as much of the excess as you can. Paper towels are quite strong. Also, 2-ply paper towels work much better than 3-ply. And I haven't tried a 1-ply paper towel. I'm not even sure if you can get those, but I would recommend 2-ply personally. Yep, so you cover it in PVA, getting off as much of the excess as you can back into your jar or bowl. And then I like to open my paper towel back out as best I can, without tearing it, preferably. Like so. And then once you have a big long strip like this, I kind of bunch it up again, but I don't want any folded bits. I just kind of want it smushed together long ways, and drop that down on top of my tree. And then once it's on the tree, I kind of smush it together as well, creating these little folds and tucks in it, and that's what gives you the bark texture of your tree. So you kind of pinch it together, smush it down, try and get all your air bubbles out. Air bubbles are not going to help you, so definitely try and get all your air bubbles out. Smush it down and make sure you've got all of that masking tape covered, and then you just keep doing that. With a tree this size and the paper towel length, this is a really quick process. I have done much bigger projects which take a wee bit longer, but it's not long, it's just messy. So dip your paper towel, smoosh out as much of the excess PVA as you can, drop it, kind of fold it or smush it together like this, and then pop it down over your base, your masking taped tinfoil base. And then you kind of pinch or smush it together again, the paper towel, and this is creating the bark effect on your tree trunk. You can move that paper towel around, you can create little knots in the tree, little divots and crevices and things like that with the paper towel. You can get a smaller piece of paper towel and kind of create a little tube kind of shape and make extra knobbly bits on the side of your tree. You can get really creative with it. So it's just a matter then of covering that whole base in the paper towel like this. Make sure all of your paper towel has got glue on it too. You don't want any dry bits. Now, where you are going to be joining two paper towels together, so say here where this branch joins the trunk, I like to bring the length of the paper towel down the tree trunk and create a, see how this has a flat end on it, which is the edge of the paper towel. Make it not flat, so tear it so it's not straight. is what I'm saying. Tear it so it's not straight, and then just smoosh it down into the wet paper towel underneath, like so. Remembering to keep running your fingers over it, getting the air bubbles and excess glue out, smooshing it out. Okay, there we go. Bit of a random shaped tree. But, and yeah, I'm sorry about the shadow tonight, but that is all you do to put bark down on a tree. And then you have to let that dry really, really well. So you need to put it outside in the sun, and it'll probably need to stay out there in the sun for 2 to 3 days at least in full sun. Otherwise, leave it for at least a week indoors drying before you start putting anything on top of it. That PVA really needs to dry properly. You'll be able to tell because it'll start to go translucent, and if you can still see heavy white bits in it, then it's still got wet glue in there. So it's a really, really important step. I can't stress that enough, how important it is to make sure this is completely dry before you start painting or anything like that. And we all know that dry time is the bane of my existence, so if I'm saying it has to dry, then you can trust me. I know what happens if it doesn't. What happens is your paint will never dry either, and it will just be sticky all the time. Okay, that is it. Then you can wipe up your mess and clean up your hands and set that aside to dry. So we'll carry on now with the rest of the video as I had intended to film it. Actually, while I'm here, before I let this dry, I'm going to pop a layer of tissue over top of these buildings because they need some texture too, and I might as well have them all drying at the same time. So I'm just going to use the same glue and a wide paintbrush. So for these buildings I want more of a concrete type texture, so I'm just going to lay the tissue down like this, like kind of pushing it in with my paintbrush. Future Karen here again. I am going to leave this video here. I am just laying down this paper towel on top of these buildings. I put a couple of layers on and then leave the whole lot to dry for about a week before I come back. So I will come back in the next video and continue with decorating the cover, starting the painting and that sort of stuff. Thanks so much for joining me again, and I will see you in the next one.